Welcome to the UK Fantasy Football Show, Goal's weekly podcast that discusses many a football fan's favourite pastime. We'll be analysing Gameweek 25's results, having a chat about how Chelsea have done in Frank Lampard's first season in charge, and revealing our teams for Gameweek 26. Joining me, Sam and Dave for this week's show is Goal's Chelsea correspondent, Nizaar Kinsella. How are you doing on FPL this season?
Yeah, good. I'm doing all right. I'm up there in the DAZN League. I've got 1,412 points just off the back of his 60 week. So confidence is high. I think
I can tell.
I think 60's
You're not welcome here.
Well, I think 60's like a solid week, isn't it? But it's not a groundbreaker. It's not a game changer.
The average for the week was 47, so you were a fair bit over the average.
Yeah, nice.
Did you have Salah? Is that how you did so well?
Yeah, Salah captain, so that gave me a big climb. And yeah, I don't know. The rest, I did leave Mason Mount on the bench though, and he had got 2 assists. So as a Chelsea correspondent, that was a big regret of mine.
Yeah, I think 3 out of 4 people in this room had Salah as captain. Is that right?
Yeah,
I did.
Right. I did.
You did, Dave. You did, Naz.
I did not.
Didn't, Mark.
I think I had Aguero as captain, who did sweet fuck all. So yeah, that was a disappointing week for me, to say the least. I got 30 points, which dealt me a big blow in both chasing Sam and avoiding Dave catching me. So
that's still pretty unlikely to happen.
It's still unlikely, but it's become more likely now.
I have 59 points, so that was a good week, an exceptional week, I think, for me actually. But
carried by Salah and your Liverpool trio,
massively. So yeah, it's captain in Salah. I think it's paid off for everyone who's had him last week. He does seem to. He likes to do that though, doesn't he? Just bang a couple of goals when a team are already beaten.
He's in good form as well. Yeah. I remember sat here last week and we were talking about whether we bring Salah into the team. I think, did you have Mane and you swapped him out, Sam, for Salah? Was that
I had
else?
Salah in last week as my free hit. Just a little trial run.
Yeah,
you had both, didn't you? Yeah.
Little trial run. So I thought I'd keep him.
Yeah,
worked out all right.
Worked out very nicely.
Try before you buy.
I cut Mane and put Salah in, right? But I have a bit of a theory. I don't know if there's anything in this, but I think Salah's better when Mane's not playing.
Yeah, I think they clash sometimes, don't they? They don't pass to each other. But I think Salah's not really hit the heights of last season, so you're almost banking on a bit more coming out of him later in the year, which might be a good gamble to go for this season.
Seems like it so far.
I mean, yeah, he's got 14 goals in the league this season. He's got 22 last season. He's pretty much on course for that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Mane, who started the first half of the season, did better, didn't he? He was the one who was really flying. Salah's definitely caught him up over the last, month or so? So it's probably about Christmas time, really.
Yeah, since they played Sheffield United, that's when he's picked up his shooting boots.
Yeah.
Maybe Salah likes it a bit when the pressure's off and now they're 22 points clear. He can just get into his stride. It's nothing to lose, has he?
He's the top scoring midfielder on the game now. I'm just having a quick little look here. I think he's the top point scorer on the whole game. Yeah, so he's really climbed up that ranking because it was De Bruyne for a long time with Mane sort of trading places at the top.
And a load of people bend Salah off as well, didn't they? Because he was the most expensive at the start.
Yeah.
And I think he went down to 12.2 from 12.5.
So he's climbed.
I know everyone's obviously listened to the podcast last week, seen how successful I was, and thought, fucking hell, let's jump on that.
So 3 million people have him now. 3 million happy souls, of which I am not one. I'm just hoping Mane comes back and makes me feel better about the fact that I haven't dropped him.
So you're going to wait and just... You're not even going to try and get Salah in?
No, because I know if I drop Mane, then I'll have to pay a higher price to get him back in because he's gone up in price since I've had him. And I'm not willing to take that hit because my team is not particularly money rich.
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the season, Mars, what do you want to look back on and say you were fiscally responsible or that you were top of the league?
The age of austerity of FPL, yeah.
Just spaff it all, mate.
Oh dear. Oh, who knows what I'm going to do.
How did your Almiron experiment work out, by the way?
How did what? Almiron?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not going well. And he's just sat there getting 2 or 3 I mean, he got 3 points, which is probably higher than his average for most of the season. I mean, so for a player who's 5.8, I can't complain too much. It's just the fact that if Mane wasn't injured, he obviously wouldn't be starting.
That's a mad 5.8 in my mind. When you got Mason Mount at 6.1, it's like just add an extra 3 for that.
Yeah, I think there's merit in the fact of not picking players from your own team because it usually backfires on you.
Definitely. And if ever anything's made it a little bit more of a level playing field, it's that you two have actually gone after players from teams that you support. Because I don't think there'll be many occasions where it's actually paid off that. I might be wrong, Sam.
Not for Man United fans.
No, you've been absolutely on the money. Apart from getting Brandon Williams in.
For 1 week.
Yeah, that did work out. That
Did
was 11 points he got.
Yeah.
Martial, I think he's the one I'm going to drop this week. I'm fed up of looking at his face. He does nothing for me. Nothing. What do you make of Martial, Naz?
Yeah, he's been really poor lately. I mean, he's a massive part of why Man United are struggling. The big chances have all fallen to him. He's missed them, and yeah, I mean they've turned to Odi and Igalo, of all people, just to get a bit of help for the guy. And I don't know how much of a help that'll be.
No.
So it's probably he got dug out on Match of the Day, didn't he, for his lack of movement. He wasn't in the box when crosses were coming in. I mean, these are basic things you want from a striker, and I don't think he's that cheap on fantasy, is he? So
He's still
7.9,
which
He's in that middle ground.
for a starting centre forward at Man United.
Yeah.
You'd be biting people's hands off for
yeah,
that.
but Man United are below Sheffield United in the league at the moment, so that's not.
Fair point.
Jordan
Great
Henderson's
value.
actually catching him in the midfielders, and he's 5.4 million. He's got 92 points.
That's an interesting
Yeah.
shout. And Henderson's going to play every week. 'Cause some people saying Player of the Year.
Not in a million miles as Player of the Year.
That's what some people say.
I love how he divides
That
opinion.
finish was
Henderson.
great. I'm pro Henderson, but that finish at the weekend was brilliant, wasn't it? The first touch and
Yeah, but if
smashed
you're
it
going
in
to
the
pick
top
Player of the
corner.
Year based on a goal, let's give it to Andros Townsend, shall we?
He's going to get you assists. He's going to get you assists. Going to get a couple of goals for 5.4.
That's a good
You
deal.
can't argue. Now I'm feeling regretful about what I picked in my team. Because I didn't
But you
think
see,
about that.
Sam likes show ponies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being like,
One
someone
big
as
ones.
agricultural as Henderson, probably does a lot of the string pulling and...
His entire midfield's 5 inside forwards, I'm sure.
Yeah, pretty much. I like memory makers. And Henderson scored 2 in the last 2 games, got an assist, I think, in both of them as well. He's never going to do... He's not... I said this about Danny Ings, actually, didn't I? Shit. There's no way he's going to carry on doing it. So everyone jumping in on Jordan Henderson now is bonkers, in my very, very humble opinion.
They do have Norwich coming up, though. Who
Yeah.
was it 4-0 or 5-0 they beat him earlier on in this? 4-1?
4-1, wasn't
4-1, yeah.
it? That was
yeah,
when everyone
Norwich
was like, oh
played
my God,
well.
Pookie.
The Pookie train. And they're away this time by the looks of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think Norwich are worth a £5.
Oh my God.
You think Norwich are going to be the ones to finally
Yeah, I do.
knock Liverpool off their little unbeaten perch?
Yeah, I think they've just got a little bit too overconfident. They spanked them last time.
The team that's bottom of the league.
Yeah. So to sort
Have we
of,
not started recording? Is this like a test run or something? I'm
No.
serious here.
so sort of to inverse your principle that you two were parroting at the start of the season, going, oh, Norwich have beat City, they'll go crack on and
They love
and
striking
win.
that.
They got a lot
don't
of
they?
injuries.
So
Out of all the
Every
sweeping
season.
statements he's made, he drags that one out of pass.
So now I think it'll flip back and Norwich will turn up, they'll spank Liverpool, and then they won't win for the rest of the season. If anyone's going to do it, I think Liverpool will take their eye off against Norwich.
That does sound like this kind of season. Strange year, isn't it? You can't have the same principles from fantasy years of years gone by.
That's it.
Stranger things have
join the
happened.
flock now. I'm always encouraging new disciples.
There's no way that Norwich are going to be the ones to finally break Liverpool's unbeaten streak. But it would be quite a story, I suppose. For stories, narratives, I hope it happens just
I don't know. I think it'd be a bit crap story because if that's the match that Liverpool lose their unbeaten record to,
they'll be
Norwich,
pretty good.
yeah. Like if they lost it to Everton and they were going to win the league on that at Goodison on that day, and then they lose to Everton, that's better.
True. The 22 points to clear now.
Yeah.
Wow. Can't be long then until are they into March for when they could win it yet? They must be edging towards it.
Oh, I think a couple of weeks ago it was Villa on the 11th or 12th, I think. So
What,
yeah,
of April or March?
of April.
All right, okay. Right,
Yeah.
so we'll be getting towards March soon. Yeah, I mean, that'll be quite something if they manage to win the league in March.
Yawn.
Yawn. How did you do? How many points did you get this week? Was it 60 as well?
I
Sam?
got 63, I think.
63.
No, that's not good.
In the
Yeah.
same little ballpark of Salah captaining.
Yeah, Salah.
Territory.
Henderson got 10, which is always handy. Everyone else got 2s. And as I very correctly said, I was going to keep hold of Tarkovsky. Picked up a nice little 5 for me.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what, Sam? Sam, you're 2 places below me in the DAZN league.
I know, I was really impressed actually that everyone else is. We've finally got a guest on.
Who's
that I
above
feel
me.
is a
Are you
intellectual,
actually, though?
intellectual way. No, for some reason, your demeanour when we were warming up, doing some kick-ups before the podcast, made me think that you weren't really taking your season seriously, and that he'd be on like 1,300.
I did
or
forget one
1,200.
game week as well, so that it could have been even better. Could have been more glorious.
He
been
actually
worse
isn't
though,
taking it seriously. He's still doing better than all of us.
So you are 7 points ahead of Sam overall this season. It's pretty good. You are around 100 points clear of me, so I'm certainly no threat to you. And you're a good...
We don't need to work that out. There's a distance there.
Oh, I've done it as well. I've just realised. This is what I was hoping would happen.
Oh, no. I know what he's going to say now. I know what he's going to say.
So,
why does it mean so much to you?
I'm
Why
just,
are you so desperate
I'm
to...
in the 1,400 club. Naz, you're in the 1,400 club. Dave's not even in the 1,300 club yet. Wow. I didn't realise there was that much daylight.
You could be insulting half our listeners here.
I could be. I've been insulting
I
more
am
than
very
them.
average. Very average. I
You're a man of the people.
Maybe it's more like we're Liverpool and he's a Man City type of situation.
I think that's probably a bit too much a compliment, really.
Yeah, I think he's got
I'm more of a Manchester United.
He's got all the panache and desirability. I don't know.
Yeah.
Burnley away.
You are
I'll take
2.1 millionth in the world, Dave. You're doing a... So you are right.
Excellent.
You are bang average.
I am. Because I can tell that because all the leagues I'm in, I'm like mid-table. Obviously, apart from ours, which is a table of 3. Which
It's distorted.
Third.
But you are catching me. You moved 30 points nearer me this week.
Yeah.
From my pathetic team. So yeah, you're
I still believe.
You still believe 1,278 points. Listeners who are listening to this, you can join our league and test yourself against us all season long in the public league. The code to type in on the FPL website is NHC4WZ. Let's move on then. So this week, our big talking point in honor of Naz being here is Chelsea and how they've done so far this season. So Naz, you were saying before the show that it's been a pretty inconsistent year for Chelsea, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's got a little bit worse of late. Ever since the international break at the end of November, they started to sort of drop points more regularly. They went on a 6-game winning run before then and were really comfortably in the top 4. And then since then, they've kind of dropped points here and there. But they've just not quite been as bad as their rivals. So it's a case of not that good, but not that bad as well. And I think we kind of expected a transitional season covering Chelsea. But lately, I think people have had a bit of a crash back down to reality in terms of there are problems, there are inconsistencies. Maybe Tammy's dried up a little bit up front, and Mason Mount's coming in for a lot of criticism, and Kante's not at his best. So there's loads, and Kepa's just been dropped in the last game for Willy Caballero. I don't think that will continue, so don't get too excited fantasy wise. But
what was that about?
That was just Kepa's just been really bad form as well.
Changed him for form reasons.
Yeah. So Kepa's made expected goals are one of the worst in the league. I think only Angus Gunn concedes more goals than he's expected to from the shots he's faced.
His save percentage is one of the lowest in the league as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, and Frank Lampard's really into his stats, so that's one of the areas of analysis that sort of people have noticed now, and it's kind of become common knowledge amongst Chelsea fans and kind of wider football audience. But Frank Lampard will have been aware of it for a while.
Had you seen that as sort of the eye test of watching Chelsea week in, week out? Had you started to think, he's not performing here? Yeah,
goalkeepers are kind of hard to analyse, and Kepa's probably only made one mistake that's led to a goal, which was against Everton. It was a kick out, and that's what he's best at, is his kicking. But these kind of stats do tell you a little bit more, and maybe an actual goalkeeper, a goalkeeping coach, or somebody in the backroom staff at Chelsea would know more, because they're I think it's easier to analyse outfield players, isn't it? But
sometimes you get a bit of you start to think to yourself, he's not making a lot of saves. Like when you're conceding goals.
And that was the case. And I think I've never been blown away by him, especially going from Petr Cech and Courtois to Kepa, and he's 71 million as well.
Record signing for a keeper, or was it Alisson? Did Alisson overtake him, or was it vice versa?
Kepa overtook Alisson that summer. So Chelsea tried to sign Alisson first, and then they ended up with Kepa.
It's a bold move for Frank to drop him and go. Wow, especially just based on form, no injuries, just take him out and put in a. But if journeyman keeper,
getting rid of him is going to cost a ton of money, because nobody's going to pay 71 million for a keeper who's not done well at Chelsea, and he's got a long contract left as well. So he maybe he's going to one of those golden handshake players like Alexis Sanchez, in terms of you might end up paying his wages in the next move or something like that.
I guess they'll hope it'll be a bit more of a shock to the system because he was dropped before, wasn't he, after the Carabao Cup final when he was a bit of an idiot?
Yeah, that was more because he was unprofessional. But yeah, I think it's something that is hopefully sending a message. I think the best case scenario would be he turns it around and saves Chelsea loads of money and actually lives up to his price tag, but might not happen.
What about at the other end of the pitch with Tammy Abraham? What's going wrong with him?
Well, he got injured against Arsenal. Absolutely brilliant piece of play, keeping a ball in play, winning a corner. Chelsea score from it, but Tammy injured himself and then produced a really poor display. Actually, I was at Leicester at the weekend and he was poor. But it was just a case, he's playing through the pain barrier. Maybe this winter break will be quite good, well timed for him, but I think Chelsea should be happy with the amount of goals he scored this season. There's a lot that he needs to work on in his game. He's not the finished article, but I think he's a great asset to Chelsea. Well, the reason that they tried to sign a striker as well in January, so I think they realised he could have done with a bit of help. And Frank Lampard doesn't fancy.
Do you think it's a fair argument to say that Abraham shouldn't be Chelsea's first choice?
I think not many managers will make him his first choice. If Mauricio Sarri was there, he wouldn't be first choice. But I think Frank really is backing him in the long term. So I think it's a case of play him now for long-term benefit. And he has been scoring as well, but he's not undroppable. And if he stops scoring, that might be a reason to drop him because he's a poacher. He's a finisher.
Sounds been slagging him off all season.
Really?
Not all season. I had him for a good chunk of it, and then I realised and had let's call it an epiphany. That he can only score against championship level teams, and obviously was it Swansea or Villa?
He scored against Arsenal, but I guess that might be championship.
Backs up point perfectly, mate. Yeah, scored against Burnley. Well, if they get relegated, they'll be a championship team.
He was at Villa, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was absolutely fantastic in the championship. Thank you,
yeah.
Dave. No, good.
He's a young lad, though, isn't he?
Of course he is.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're
I'm not saying he's never going to be Premier League, but I think that's his level at the moment.
No, I don't agree with that. I think he's been one of Chelsea's best players this season. But the problem,
just because he's been one of Chelsea's best players doesn't mean he's still a championship player.
I'd back him maybe even for Player of the Year at Chelsea. So it's a tough one, really. He's obviously not one of Chelsea's best players talent-wise, but this season he's really delivered so far. I mean, he's most of. Chelsea won a lot of points through his goals. He's had last-minute winners. He's had goals in 1-0 wins. And I think that's what you look for in a striker when they make a difference. It's not stat padding. It's actually making a difference for your team. And he's done that. And you can't complain, really. One
of the things I've been chuntering on about in a few different shows is how I'm quite impressed by his off-the-ball work.
Yeah,
he's quite a selfless attacker sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it was against Burnley, I want to say, when Pulisic was smashing him in.
Yeah.
And he was quite an underrated performance, but he helped make the space and make the goals happen, really.
Yeah, his hold-up play is pretty good and his pressing's good as well, which is something Giroud can't do, which is why he's not in the teams, because he can't cover the distance to press defences. And Lampard's system's very energetic. It relies on youth, which is probably why he's got a bit more benefit under Lampard than he might have done under another manager.
Yeah, but the chance that Abraham missed against Leicester at the weekend.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was big, man.
Yeah, it was big.
That's why you shouldn't go to the Euros.
England have no one else, though.
No.
Greenwood.
Oh my God.
Greenwood would have missed that chance, so he wouldn't even be there. He wouldn't even be in there.
Sterling would have missed
that
chance.
Do you know why he wouldn't? Because it would have been a completely different match because he'd already scored a hat-trick of belters. Butterfly effect.
Greenwood is not a tap-in striker.
Sorry, so who would your strikers be that you'd send to the Euros then? England strikers?
I'm not quite figuring out my
And let's say Harry Kane is fit. Let's say Harry Kane is fit.
If Harry Kane's fit, I'd start Rashford and Sterling.
Okay.
I'd have Hudson-Odoi and Sancho on the wings. And then off the bench, I'd probably have.
I think your team lacks pace.
Greenwood and Ings.
Greenwood and Ings.
Yeah.
Greenwood over Abraham. Is this a serious comment?
Ings over Abraham.
I might be being slightly contrary on some elements, but I'd have. If Abraham was going to go to the Euros, he'd be his third or fourth choice.
So would Ings be ahead of him for you?
Oh, fourth choice then, yeah, definitely. Actually, Ings has just been better. In a worse team.
Well, I don't agree with his comments, but see what Southgate does, I suppose. What about further back into midfield then, Naz? How that you mentioned before that Kante hasn't been quite as hot as he has been in past seasons.
Yeah, he's had injury problems in his defence. I think there's probably still a question mark over his position as well, because a lot of the time he's been playing the same formation Maurizio Sarri put him in, and that's controversial towards Chelsea fans. He was. They thought he was more of a defensive midfielder, probably right as well. But a midfield 3 doesn't seem to suit Kante. I think you get the best out of him in a midfield 2, and he was better against Leicester, and they played a midfield 2 there. But yeah, it's kind of like, how do you accommodate Jorginho and Kante? Can they bring a good partnership? And it's not really worked so far between those two, I don't think. Maybe it's just a case of dropping one, but dropping Kante particularly would be an unbelievably bold move. It's probably the best defensive midfielder in the league, or maybe even the world.
Is he more beloved by fans than Jorginho is, fair to say?
Yeah, Jorginho's grown on people. I mean, he's got that passion. He's
great at penalties.
Yeah, he's great at penalties. Unbelievable. Serious. He might be a good fantasy pick actually, but if he plays regularly. But yeah, I think obviously Kante's the ultimate one. He was loved. I wrote a piece saying about Kante's problems this season, and there was a big reaction on goal. So it kind of showed. Some hard truths about Chelsea have won fewer games when Kante's played than when he hasn't, by quite some distance. I'm not sure if those figures have changed since then, but there was quite a big discrepancy, and that was only in mid-January when I wrote that. So it's pretty shocking to see, really, because you don't expect that from a world-class player to actually make the team worse.
So one player I've always wanted to ask you about for a while is Hudson-Odoi, because he obviously had all the fanfare of him being linked with Bayern last season.
Yeah.
Massive contract. And, Kante, who is a defensive midfielder, Kovacic, Pulisic, Jorginho, Willian, they've all got more points than him this season.
Yeah.
What's happened?
I think that Hudson-Odoi's problem is, you want goals and assists from him, of course you do, but he is still very young. He's not a complete player. I mean, one of the problems is quite similar to problems at other clubs, Man United's attacking players, is that they don't get on the end of crosses and stuff. So if Hudson-Odoi's movement's not good enough, and one of Chelsea's big problems at the moment is scoring goals, and a lot of that, Tammy missed that big chance at the weekend, but the wingers aren't doing enough. They don't score anywhere near enough. They don't create enough. And Hudson-Odoi, it doesn't get on the end of crosses. He's great at putting in balls himself. He's great at 1v1. He scores the occasional wonder goal, but he needs to sort of get the scruffier goals as well, just to add to his tally. I think that's an area of the game that he needs to learn, a big part. But there's certainly the talent is something I've not seen coming through Chelsea Academy before. He's loved. I can't
remember. I think it was an England match. I think Sancho scored 2-1 England's last match or the match before. And I can't remember whether it was someone told me a conversation they'd had, or I actually had the conversation with a skills coach, and they were saying that Hudson-Odoi's technique, and especially shooting technique, is so much better than Sancho's. That Sancho had missed a couple, and he was like, Hudson-Odoi, if he was playing, would have absolutely buried both of them.
Hudson-Odoi is better than Sancho when they were in academy level, but Sancho has gone on to Bayern and had that experience, had that pace of the game. I mean, Hudson-Odoi's barely played 50 games, whereas Sancho's played 100 games maybe now in professional football.
He's doing all right at Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah, so he plays every week. He's decisive. He's got his confidence way higher as well now. So I think there's a shortfall there, but talent-wise, there's not much difference between the two of them.
Do you think? And I've thought the same thing about Phil Foden. Do you think it's a regret of Hudson-Odoi of not going to Bayern and being able to play, assuming he would have played week in, week out?
Yeah, I think it would have been a good move for him, but I guess with Frank Lampard there, that's a big difference maker. The fact he's giving youth a chance, and his real competition and part of the fantasy point shortfall is that Pulisic was the main man for much of the season. There's also the Achilles tendon rupture that he had earlier in the year as well. So we've yet to see the best of Hudson-Odoi this season, and there will be better.
He started his last 4, got a goal and an assist. Yeah. Maybe that's him now set for the season. Yeah, I hope so.
I would say just expect big things from him. But yeah, I think that Frank Lampard's big worry and everyone else's big worry at Chelsea is that he's going to rest on his laurels based on the contract and based on the hype he gets. But if he keeps pushing forward, he's still ahead of the curve and he can do some damage.
Yeah, so still a teenager.
With the hypothetical purchase of Sancho in the summer, because Chelsea were linked with him in January, weren't they? Hudson-Odoi on one wing, Sancho on the other.
Yeah.
Be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, bad news for Pulisic getting dumped out of the team again for Sancho. But yeah, I think that's the big dream for Chelsea fans and the Chelsea board as well. I think he's definitely a target of Chelsea's. And apparently he's a Chelsea fan when he was growing up. Grew up in South London. He already knows Hudson-Odoi, good mates. He's already mates with Tammy Abraham as well. They knew each other as children. So, yeah, Jadon Sancho.
It's a nice little spine of like exciting youth players coming through there with Reece James at the back as well, Hudson-Odoi on one wing and Abraham up front.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Mount and Tomori as well.
Yeah,
Tomori.
I mean, it's great. A lot of these lads are really great lads coming through the academy. They bring them up the right way. They've been winning youth trophies year after year after year, but it's just finally seeing them in the first team. There's also Ruben Loftus-Cheek to come back in, who would be a bargain in fantasy, I guess. And he got 10 goals last season for Chelsea, and he was.
And how close is he to?
He's just played a sort of behind closed doors game. So
right,
maybe a month down the line, worth chucking him in. If he's cheap,
yeah.
It's class. Loftus-Cheek. I'd have him in my England midfield.
Yeah.
Number one starter. He's amazing.
Number one starter. Straight in there.
For the midfielders.
He's a strange player, isn't he? Just so powerful.
I always forget that he was in the World Cup squad, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was really good. He must have played a couple of games, but I'd be surprised if he makes it straight into the England team without a few games under his belt.
Well, yeah, if he's back by end of Feb, 3 months.
Lampard does love chucking him in, doesn't he? He's doing that a lot this season. So
Lampard's not really settled on a strong 11, has he, at Chelsea? Has that been part of the problem this season?
I think that's part of the problem, yeah. I mean, there's so many decent players at Chelsea. Like, I think they do have a big squad, but it's just, I mean, is Kovacic that much better than Jorginho? Is Christensen that much better than Tomori? There's not the obvious Van Dijk superstar. There's not your obvious Salah superstar who has to play every week.
So he's almost spoilt for choice of players at a certain level.
Yeah,
like they're all such good quality almost that he can't choose between them. None of them are like superstars either.
No, there's definitely like a nettle to grasp there for somebody who wants to be the superstar. But there's not really. I wouldn't say you'd probably say Kante would be the one, but he's having a bad year as well. So it's kind of like, Lampard's just chopping and changing. And yeah, I think, the defence is disorganised because they're always changing the defence. And maybe Lampard is like that as a manager. He does like to change his tactics, change his lineup, change formation. But yeah, maybe some players suffer for it a bit as well.
What's the realistic sort of ambition for them this season then? Do you think top 4 is doable? Yeah,
top 4 would be ahead of the curve, really, because I think they weren't expecting it for sure. They were hopeful, yes. And that's always been the minimum barometer of a Chelsea manager in the past, but with the transfer ban, they kind of like lowered their expectations. But Frank Lampard's kind of raised them again by being in the top 4. They've been in the top 4 for pretty much the entire season as well. So if they drop out, they'll be the I'll expect to be very busy at work, because I think there'll be panic stations amongst the fans. There'll be a lot of engagement, I guess, in Chelsea, a bit of talk of crisis. But yeah, I think that the expectations gone back up now.
They're quite fortunate in that the chasing teams have not looked that great.
Yeah. I think that any other year, I think they're about 7 points less than they were under Sarri or something like that at this stage. So I think any other season they might be out of the top 4 at the moment.
Do you have much optimism about the Bayern Munich last 16 game? Do you think that'll be tough?
I think it'll be tough, but of course it will. And I think Bayern are probably slight favourites, but it's pretty even. I don't think Bayern are the force they once were, and they've got problems wide. Kingsley Coman might be back though, so that'd be interesting. He's a good player, but it's not vintage Bayern, is it?
It's not a vintage Bayern. I mean, they're not spectacular. They haven't been spectacular in the league, but they're the sort of team that turn it on when they want in Europe.
Yeah, they've just climbed to top though now, haven't they? This weekend, so probably by the time the game comes around,
hitting the stride.
Yeah,
I think they're quite a good team to watch though, Bayern.
Yeah, they're more pragmatic, aren't they? They're not like your Barca tiki taka.
Yeah, and that's how I always preferred Real Madrid back in there, because they were just a bit more dynamic. But Lewandowski is wonderful.
Wait to see him live,
and especially after the way he desecrated Spurs, Gnabry is amazing. I didn't realise he was just that good. I don't care. And then Coman, and then I really like Leon Goretzka as well. So they've got a really tidy little team going.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm applauding them for going, oh, well done, Bayern. You've won the Champions League many a time, a successful
They're
German team.
favourites, aren't they? But I think Premier League teams have so much money these days that even like your pretty average Premier League teams are pretty dangerous for your Bayerns and Juventuses and stuff like that. I mean, English teams doing well in Champions League in recent seasons. Spurs getting to the final last year.
Yeah.
You know, Chelsea are probably more like Spurs were last season with their experience levels and stuff like that. So, or Ajax even. So, I think they'll be hopeful.
I think if they
can do
manage to keep a closed shop, if they manage not to concede too many, they should be all right. But Bayern's attack is, as Sam mentioned, very potent.
Yeah.
And I do worry a bit about the defence, but it's definitely one of the most interesting ties of the round. I think it's the same night as Napoli-Barcelona, that fixture. So it's a good night of football for football fans.
Frank Lampard's going to be in the spotlight as well, managing at the highest level yet. So it'll be quite interesting from that.
So do you think what would it take for Lampard's job to be at risk, or do you think he's basically untouchable at the moment?
I think he's untouchable for this season, but I think some people have already called for Lampard out, unbelievably, because they've been so inconsistent this year.
Can't please everyone, can you?
Yeah, I mean, the Chelsea fans who go to games are 100% behind him, so that's something he can enjoy for a while. Legendary status, playing the youth, which they've been crying out for a while. This stuff does mean a lot to the sort of match-going fans, but it is about success, and he hasn't felt backed in the transfer market. The last press conference before the Leicester game, it was a strange atmosphere, very tense from Frank Lampard. And when you look at what Antonio Conte got in the transfer market, and Frank had a season. I mean, he had summer out of the transfer market, and then gets nothing again in January.
He looked furious.
He
looked absolutely furious.
Yeah, he was talking very fast. Somebody counted like his word count, and it was like 4 words a second or something like that. It was like, he was talking really fast, and he said like a lot of negative things, but he always caveats it Lampard to keep himself out of trouble. But it was a bit Mourinho-esque. And then in the Leicester game, he subbed off Tammy Abraham for Ross Barkley. So that some people have described that as a bit Mourinho-esque.
I was about to say, just trying to remember who it was who came on. That was straight out of the Mourinho playbook. Yeah,
because he did it with Schürrle one time. Andre Schürrle played up front for Chelsea when he wanted a striker. So it's kind of almost history repeating itself. I mean, Frank Lampard might feel untouchable with the fans, but maybe with the ownership, they might turn the back on him. They don't always listen to the fans. If he attacks them, then it'll be interesting to see how the politics plays out at Chelsea. There's always politics going on at Chelsea, and it can be quite tense and fraught.
What's happened with Ross Barkley, actually? I think Sam said he was going to
he
be
had a
player
great
of the year,
pre-season,
didn't he?
Great pre-season,
yeah. Smashed it in pre-season, scored a few penalties.
And then he Ross Barkley did.
Yeah.
Basically,
he had a great pre-season. Not much since then.
In terms of the January transfer window, like who was it that they really missed out on that they should have or could have got? You'll be so disappointed with him.
Well, I didn't. Cavani was the first one, and he would have been a good fit, I think. But the problem with Chelsea's business in the transfer market was they were trying to get really top strikers on loan moves. So it's like, you're trying to get Cavani, 32 years old, boosting the squad, and then you're like, oh, we'll offer you 6 months, and he's like, why would I come here for 6 months? There's, his Atletico Madrid were offering him longer. Then they went for Dries Mertens, who is chasing a goal record in Naples, and I think he's 2 off it now. He scored at the weekend, and he's also, he was in a similar situation, 32. Contracts expiring in 6 months. Why would he go there without being offered a bit of security? So I think that what Chelsea wanted wasn't on the market, and that was the problem. And I do have a bit of sympathy for Frank for not getting what he wants, because it's nice to get a little nudge over the line and not be scrambling around and work with what you've got. But at the same time, you're looking at Man United signing Odion Ighalo, and that's probably the example where you're like, oh yeah, he's probably not good enough for Chelsea. He shouldn't be good enough for Man United. Solomon Rondon was offered to Chelsea as well, and they turned that down. I actually quite like Rondon, but
for Newcastle, it's great.
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he? Not as good for West Brom, but yeah, certainly that was kind of the situation. So I don't think there's a good offer, good option.
I think, as you said, the fact that he's got that sort of fan support should, even, it's not like his job's on the line and, he's not brought anyone in and he's going to be potentially fired. I think he's probably safe.
I think maybe if like Man United were level on points with him, they might have pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
They're probably taking a calculated risk.
Yeah. In terms of FPL players to pick then, so players that are getting loads of points for Chelsea, at least sort of in the next few weeks, that you think might be worth throwing in? Who would you recommend?
Well, I think Mason Mount's come under a lot of criticism, but he got 2 assists this weekend, so he'd be worth it. 6.1, you can't really complain. The homegrown guys are great for that because their ratings are so low because they've not got any precedent. Tammy, I think Tammy will score again. I think he'll start scoring soon. In my team, I'm going to talk about in a bit. I think Reece James is somebody who hasn't even assisted yet or delivered, but if you actually
looks dangerous, doesn't he? He swings in some right crosses.
Yeah, if you watch Chelsea live, you know that there's something special about him, and especially in terms of ability to get assists. I guess the problem with Chelsea defenders is they're often rotated and they don't get many clean sheets. But for James, there's that assist potential, which makes him.
He could be Chelsea's Trent, couldn't he? Really?
Yeah. I mean, crossing ability wise, I think Trent's got more variation in his crossing, but Reece James is a bit like Beckham, just has that one dangerous whip, and it's very Beckham-like technique. He whips it really fast, curls it, and
dying to be headed.
Yeah, Tammy missed a really easy chance from one this weekend, and they're perfect, those crosses. It's like a one-trick pony, but a bit like Ian Robben with his cut inside.
Yeah, you still can't stop it.
You can't stop it. Yeah. So that's what he's got. I mean, beyond that, with Chelsea, I mean, there's not too many players exciting me. Maybe Pulisic, his ratings dropped down. He's been injured. He's coming back very soon, and he did show a bit of signs that he can do it. I've still got doubts about Pulisic in terms of long-term goal threat, but Hudson-Odoi as well, very cheap, so could be another option.
Any players to avoid that you don't think are worth putting in your team? Aren't the value?
Probably Willian's not value. I think he's one of the top point scorers on Chelsea, but 7.1, and he kind of does it in big games, but he's not decisive, and he's part of the problem with the goal threat as well, in terms of he doesn't really run in behind, doesn't really get enough goals. He gets a lot of criticism for that one as well. Kante is more of a holding midfielder this season as well, so I don't think he'll score the points he did last year, and his form's dipped, so probably ones to avoid, even though I rate them. And it's Marcos Alonso as well as barely being picked, so he was like the main FPL player, wasn't he, in recent years?
Yeah, he was really high in terms of price at the start of the season, but drops right off. 6.5. Tomori was someone who I had in my team for a while because he played in that sort of early to mid-season.
Yeah, he played every week, didn't he? And he's so cheap.
Now he's gone.
Christensen's come in for him a bit now, and that's the problem with the centre backs at Chelsea. They're just Frank doesn't know his best partnership really. I think probably Rudiger's going to be the mainstay, but there's no value in 6.0 Rudiger, even though we're just talking after he scored 2 goals.
His second header was amazing.
It was Alan Shearer-esque, wasn't it?
It was, it was wonderful. I'd say more Les Ferdinand. I thought he was better in the air.
Yeah.
But that was just amazing.
It was. It probably goes under the radar because it was a header, but it was sensational, wasn't it?
16 points he got at the weekend. Wow.
Yeah. Not many people would have had that, would they?
How many clean sheets do you think he's got this season, Rudiger?
0, 1,
2.
2. That's more than I thought.
As many goals as he got at the weekend.
That's how pessimistic I am about Chelsea's defence right now.
Do any of you guys have any Chelsea players at the moment?
Nope.
In your team? Lurking around?
I was
Literally
considering putting Abraham in this week.
I don't think I have any either. Since I dropped Tammy, it's been a Chelsea.
I think I've had a few over the course of the season, though. I remember, was it at the start of the season we kind of lumped in a bit on Chelsea, didn't we? I think Barkley was one of those we mentioned, and Mount,
Yeah, a lot of people started with Barkley because of pre-season.
Yeah, I definitely did, and then shipped him out. Stat.
Abraham's been a fairly popular pick throughout the season, hasn't he?
Yeah, I had Reece James for a little bit, and then I had Pulisic. Luckily for the 3 games, he was good.
Until Dave killed him.
And then
killed him,
and then shipped him out.
Curse of Milner.
I had a feeling he was going to go that way, though, and like Naz says, I share those kind of like reservations as to whether he's really going to cut it in the Premier League.
He didn't score that many in Germany, so it was like he gets a lot of assists in Germany, but not a lot.
Especially when a player like Hazard leaves, and then he's seen as the replacement.
Yeah, he's still got to bring that to his game a bit more, I think, and I think that period was more of an anomaly than it was.
If Pulisic was Romanian, do you think Chelsea would have paid 57 million for him?
Maybe not. Maybe there is definitely a marketing element because Chelsea have lumped on that massively, and they will go to America this summer, and they've got loads of American projects going on and stuff. It's trying to be the USA's club really, but I mean there is potential there. I mean he was one of Dortmund's better players.
Yeah,
the year before they signed him.
I think he's a good player.
Yeah,
obviously when you're coming from dropping down from Hazard being world class. I think it just looks a bit more extreme.
Yeah, I think that might be the issue. I think it's going to be a combination of players replacing Hazard. So I think they're banking on Hudson-Odoi. I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek will be a potential player to replace Hazard as well, because he had a lot of goals in him, and he seems like a special talent who's never got a run of games.
Didn't he score a hat-trick in the Europa last season?
Yeah, he did, and they were crying out for him to be put in the team last season, the Chelsea fans, and he didn't get put in until like late March or something, and then when he got put in, he was like undroppable. He was the second best player after Hazard, and then he got injured in that friendly, the post-season friendly, which was actually a disaster for Sarri, because he lost Kante and he lost Loftus-Cheek, which were his two best central midfielders for the head of the Europa League final.
Oh, that was the Abramovich sanctioned one, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So a lot of Chelsea fans responded badly to that incident.
Understandably.
And Ruben, it's been a horrific injury for Loftus-Cheek, but I mean, they gave him a new contract, so that's a signifier that he's going to come back to full fitness eventually.
And have you heard much from Loftus-Cheek's side of, has it affected him too much? Does he feel, was he at least looking the same if he's playing in these matches and training?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some. There's a viral picture going around, and you see Loftus-Cheek around Stamford Bridge a lot, and he does look big. He always looks big, but there's a viral picture going around of him stood next to a 6'7" goalkeeping coach who works at the academy at Chelsea, and Ruben looks just as hench as him and almost as tall as him, and it was like, look at this guy, he's just been injured for like 9 months, but he's absolutely ripped, stacked. So it probably is a time for him to get his body in top shape. It's more about that Achilles. A lot of athletes struggle for pace after they get an Achilles injury, so it's about returning that pace. It's quite a common injury in basketball more than football. It's a really strange injury in football.
Yeah, it's very debilitating. Injury in basketball. Players never come back the same. Yeah,
he lost a lot of muscle from it. So, I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi got the same injury as well. So, I guess he's showing signs that he's okay. But yeah, there will be a question mark on him, I guess. But
6.3 million though. Just fancy a little gamble on him.
That's a great gamble, isn't it? I mean, he was so decisive and he was so powerful. So, yeah, I mean, if anyone deserves a bit of luck, it's Ruben. That's an absolute shame. And we all want to see that player come on, because there's just nothing like him in world football, really. Who is huge and quick and also technically gifted.
Wow,
maybe
there's a big man.
There is a big man. One man comes to mind. Adama.
Well, yeah, he's
but they're few and far between.
There's a reason he's a cult icon now. Adama Traore.
Always goes back to Adama.
All roads lead.
All right, then leaving behind our Chelsea chat, let's look specifically at Game Week 26. Before we run through mine, Dave and Sam's changes, Naz will be revealing his 1 week wonder team. He has to pick a team to get as many points as possible from this one game week. Last week, our Man City correspondent, Johnny Smith, bagged 45 points, which is pretty mediocre. But our overall high score is actually from another correspondent, our Liverpool correspondent, Neil Jones, who got 77 points. So that's what you've got to beat us.
Liverpool again.
Destroying everything this season, Liverpool. So what team have you put together, Naz?
Okay, I've started with goalkeepers, Rui Patricio, who's been in my team all year pretty much. I think, probably one of the best goalkeepers. Wolves defence, you can always rely on, can't you? Yeah. Clean sheets are plenty. Backup keeper, doesn't really matter. I just try to save points on that. So I've got David Martin, who sometimes plays for West Ham with the... he's not even playing anymore, but we'll have him at 4.0. Okay. He's played more than any other 4.0 goalkeeper.
That's true.
Lewis Dunk, I'm a big fan of his, and he scores a couple of goals, and Brighton have a pretty solid defence for the relegation threatened teams, in my opinion. Him and Webster are a pretty good partnership. Webster could have been in, but Dunk's slightly more of a goal threat. Soyuncu, probably a common name that gets brought up. Leicester's defence is one of the best in the league as well. Shame he doesn't get enough goals, but 4.7, you can't complain.
No, it's cheap and cheerful.
Yeah. Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, don't really need to say anything about that, do we?
No.
Reece James.
Is he starting or is he a sub?
That's a good question.
TBC, you want to come back at the end?
TBC, let's sort out that at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, James, we spoke a bit about him, the crossing. Williams as well, 4.0. Man United's Williams, Brandon Williams. My only Man United player, sorry, Man United fans. I'm going to put a few new signings in there. So Sander Berg, I think, he's quite a creative player. Big signing, 22 million.
Chose the better United in the end.
Yeah.
The bigger United.
Well, yeah. Not the goalkeeper, not to be confused with the academy goalkeeper. I met the agent of the academy goalkeeper recently, actually, and he was saying that he just found it hilarious and absolutely loved it, and he was like calling himself Sander Berg to all his mates, and that's what he's known as now. So that was a pretty funny little story. Salah and De Bruyne as my two big boys do the damage, and De Bruyne's captain, that's for sure. City have West Ham when they come back from their break, and we all know how bad West Ham are. I have no West Ham players in my team. Bergwijn, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
He scored. I'm just jumping on the bandwagon unashamedly. I don't really know a lot about him. But Goal did have an interview with him, so I'm backing the guys who've interviewed in the past.
He seemed super chill in that interview.
He did, yeah. He was fairly confident he was going to get moved to the Premier League. That's why.
Yeah. Part of including Spurs wingers is just the fact that Spurs have Harry Kane out, so they're just going to have to play like loads of wingers. So he's probably going to get a lot of minutes. He might have a little purple patch at the beginning of his career. Mason Mount, cheap and cheerful, but also very good. And he'll play every week, which is not a lot of Chelsea players will play every week.
Does he take penalties for Chelsea?
No, Jorginho, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but Mount takes all the corners, does he, on both sides?
Yeah, a lot of corners, a lot of free kicks, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 assists just before the game week. But unfortunately, Chelsea play Man United this weekend, and upcoming one. Then strikers is Aubameyang. I think he'll get back to the goals. It's been a bit lost under Arteta, hasn't it, the goal threat, but the defence has improved.
At home to Newcastle this weekend.
Yeah, so he'll definitely be in my team
Coming
then.
weekend, yeah.
Samatta, the Villa striker, I think 6.0, a player will probably play every week, and he scored. I don't know a lot about him, but he did have a decent goal record in Belgium. It's just Belgium, but maybe they've not scored a header all season, had they? And he scored one in his first game.
Good start, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what they need. Raul Jimenez as well. Obviously a good striker. So
the big question here then is who you're going to drop. Who's going to be your subs?
Right, he needs to settle on a formation. So I think I'm going to drop Williams and Martin, the goalkeeper Martin, Williams, and then do I go with a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3? I bet everyone goes with a 3-4-3 really.
A 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 are probably the two most common ones we get.
Yeah, right, okay. I think I'll drop Soyuncu, and I'll play with 3 at the back. So James, Trent, and Dunk. And then midfield, I'll drop Berg and play with the others.
Okay.
And then 3 strikers, all 3.
Cool. And you've got De Bruyne as captain.
De Bruyne as captain, yeah.
That should probably pay off quite well. Was it West Ham who they smashed the first game of the season?
Yeah.
When Sterling absolutely tore him to bits.
I wasn't that wise about that. That wasn't part of my thinking, but now I feel even more confident. So great, yeah. Thanks, Milo.
Well, best of luck with that team. We'll take a look in a couple of weeks on our next show how that's done, and see if you've dethroned Neil at the top of that table. Dave, how are you looking this week for your team? You made any transfers?
I'm just circling around one. Well, I've got one free transfer this week, so I was thinking I could either take Gator out of goal and put Henderson in. Another option is to drop Cantwell and put Mount in, or I am looking at Calvin Lewin and potentially axing him for Abraham. Okay. So, in tribute to Naz being here, a couple of Chelsea options.
They are playing
there.
a relegation team this coming weekend.
Yeah, they're playing Chelsea playing Man United on Monday the 17th. So I reckon there's some points up for grabs there.
Yeah. I think that Mount's probably a better shot in the long run as well than Cantwell.
I was just looking through Mount's season, and he's not he scores fairly consistently, but
Yeah.
at the start of the season, it was looking like he might get a few goals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they
Distorted it a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, they
So-
dried up really. I think he managed one against Villa, game week 15, but they have dried up massively.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for that? Is he just not getting further forward?
I
or
think
is
he's
it-
probably just very tired. But yeah, there's been times when he played in
He's
midfield
tired.
3. Yeah. Well, he's played more minutes than any other Chelsea player. I think he's played all
He's a
games
young
but
lad, though,
one.
isn't he?
And he's played every England game as well. So it could be a case of tiredness. That's been one thing that's been put forward. But
Yeah.
I think that he's probably good for 10 goals and 10 assists, possibly, if he plays number 10 more often towards the end of the year. Whereas Cantwell, obviously, is just at Norwich. So, he's done well, but it's difficult.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that Mount's way better, but he's in a better team as well, which helps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't share Sam's faith that Norwich are going to be the team that uncouple Liverpool, but it's Sam Cantwell's coming out.
Yeah.
Vardy's another one that's a bit frustrating. I'd quite like to swap him out, to be quite honest. Miles, if you're asking me, I'd like to change, but
Yeah.
I've got one transfer. It'll be one of those.
See, I've got
Roughly.
2 transfers.
Oh yeah, what are you going to do?
I don't know. I feel like I should jump on that Salah train just because it's hard to watch you two benefit so much from it. And when I've got Mane, and is he expected to be back in the next couple of weeks? It's not like a long-term injury, is it?
I think they'll probably still. I think he might still miss.
What, 2 weeks' time?
Yeah.
There's no need for them to rush him back, is there?
No.
Like, they might as well just be like, look,
No,
you've had a really long season. What did you
Save
have,
yourself
like?
for Athletic
It's a
Madrid.
13-month season.
Yeah,
isn't it?
13-month season, so just save him for the Champions League.
Oh, I'm going to have to get rid of that.
Suddenly, that 5 on Norwich is looking.
It's still ridiculous 5. I would trust Liverpool's semi-second team, 1.5 team to beat Norwich in that game, or to at the very least not lose. But Sam feels otherwise, so we'll see. I guess who is victorious in this.
So other than Salah, who do you reckon?
Well, I want to get rid of Vardy as well. I really want to get rid of him, but there's not a lot of striker options. I think Naz mentioned Aubameyang when he was doing his 1 week wonders team. I'm drawn a fair bit to him. The one thing that's putting me off it slightly is Newcastle. We're shit at most things, right? But we are pretty decent against like the so-called top 6 in games this season. We've actually turned up against a lot of teams. Yeah, I've turned up against Man City. I think Spurs we might have turned up against as well. A lot of the top teams we've done all right against.
I think pulling the trigger on Vardy might not be the wise thing to do right now because he's getting his break that he needs.
I'm just an impatient FPL player though, so I've just
He's still top scorer in the league, isn't he? He's been injured for a while and not got his match rhythm. But I think this, if you're looking at players who are going to benefit from the winter break, that might be an astute way to look at these kind of things as well. And Vardy's got to be.
I need some of your wisdom in my life.
Yeah,
Naz.
I think Vardy might be. I think it's a stick, not twist time for Vardy.
Maybe I'll go in Naz.
Yeah,
I'm very easily persuadable to be honest. What about you, Sam? What are you doing?
Pretty happy with most things. Henderson, great, keep him. Tarkovsky, great, always been a big fan, going to keep him. Kelly does something on the bench. Brandon Williams does something on the bench or what have you for 4 mil.
What about Martial?
Whoa, hang on, don't get ahead of yourself, Sunshine.
Sorry. I was excited.
Lundstrom dropped.
You dropped Lundstrom. Oh my god.
That's FPL favourite.
Yeah, I think because Sander Berg is coming in, and he played ahead of Lundstrom at the weekend in that spot that is Lundstrom's, and so I've always started Lundstrom after I learnt the errors of my ways, and I can't have him coming off the bench like he did at the weekend and getting 1 point each week. So I've dropped him. See ya. I'll use him. He's fulfilled his worth. Chuck him. It's a horrible. It's,
Harsh.
You're right. I think you're
this
right.
isn't a place for sentimentality, and I guarantee you'll both do it in 2 weeks' time.
No, I think I'm going to do it this week.
So I've now changed him to Tanganga.
Oh, you're getting on the Tanganga train.
I am, yeah.
Joining me and
But
Dave.
Why?
He played at the weekend.
Did he play?
He got a
He got
clean sheet.
Oh, he's not even in my team.
Oh God.
So he's played 3, got 2 clean sheets. Rose and Walker Peters have now left.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play, and he's 4 mil, and it allowed me to pull in an extra 0.6 mil that I can drop however I see fit. Maybe I want to change Martial to Bruno Fernandes. Well, I can do that now, can't I?
Oh yeah. How much is Bruno Fernandes on the game?
8 mil, man.
8 mil.
I was quite interested.
Well, Pogba's not going to play, so he's probably going to play every week.
I think he will play pretty much every week, and I know he scored a lot for Sporting Lisbon, but that's primarily just because he smacked it loads from outside the area.
He gets a lot of assists,
which
as
I've got a
well.
lot of time for, to be honest.
Really?
And he did it. And he did it quite a lot. against Wolves from the 2-minute 58 highlight reel I watched on YouTube on Monday. So all power to him. Let's see what happens.
Good shout.
Odion Igalo. He's 6.5 million. I'm just looking at his stats.
I was looking for him before. I couldn't see him.
Yeah, because he's hidden on the second page because he hasn't got any points yet. So he has a pretty good season in 2015-16. 16 goals and 6 assists. FPL.
16 goals?
I know, yeah. Must have smashed it that season. Was it Watford he was at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's hope for your sake,
Bloody
Sam.
hell, 16 goals, eh?
Yeah.
Have they actually got him in his Watford kit there from 2016 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's not past quarantine.
That's lazy.
Yet,
That's lazy. That
Couldn't even Photoshop it, could they?
Yeah, he's not past quarantine yet. But as I was saying before the podcast started, I've watched all his Premier League goals. I thought I'd watched 15, but it turns out I've watched 17. Scruffy goals is his forte.
you're thinking about putting him in now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
put
seriously.
him as with him and Bruno Fernandes, you've got yin and yang there of belters from distance and Igalo getting the
Yeah,
scruffy
you
ones.
should definitely put
But,
him in.
like, honestly, he scored 3 goals that I think were just pure goalkeeper errors, and 2 or 3 that were just such bad defending. I think it was Newcastle that one of the Newcastle defenders tried to clear it, smacked it against his face, then smacked that. Then
sounds
it
about right.
hit the back of other Newcastle player's head. Then it hit Igalo's chest, dropped at his feet, and he just tapped it in.
Nice.
And I could do with a bit of that in my life.
You've got a bit there, haven't you? You
Yeah.
know, you've got to be on top of those goalkeeper errors as well to score the goals. So,
But he's seriously
It could
strong. Seriously strong. So again, from this 5-minute clip I watched on YouTube. So yeah, fizz the ball into him. He holds it up. Dan James and Greenwood running off the side, and then Bruno Fernandes arrives late, a little bit like Frank Lampard. And then Kablamo slats it in the bottom corner or scuffs it like Lampard always used to do in the other corner.
Lampard is a fan of his. He called him world class the other day.
Really?
I was like, come on, Frank. Don't give me that.
I was just looking at Martinelli's price, right? 4.6 million. He got 8 points before this week. He got 2 points this week. We got 8 points in 2 consecutive weeks before that. Arsenal have a good run of games
man.
coming up.
He's
I love
good.
watching him. My only hesitance towards him is if Lacazette takes that position back off him.
Yeah, but what's Lacazette done this season?
Absolutely nothing.
Fuck all, mate.
Literally nothing. So,
But I think Igalo's looking good because already he's only 3 goals behind Pepe.
Pepe has not had a happy season in this room, has he? He's got a lot of stick. He is still, I mean,
Rightly so.
this is a low bar, but he is still the high-scoring Arsenal midfielder with 63 points.
So I
I'd love to know what his competition is. Then.
The next is Guendouzi.
I don't know if you remember 4 weeks ago, I proposed. Was it with you, Dave? That
It was with Amy, I think, wasn't it?
that Ozil would get more assists than goals than Pepe.
Oh, it was with Amy, wasn't it? I think.
4 games in, neither of them got any.
Race to the bottom with it. Oh dear, yeah. So I think I'll put Martinelli in, save a load of money, and then splash that on Salah. Can I get Salah in? I can. There we go. Salah in for Martial and Martinelli in for Vardy.
Do you know what else I'm going to do in the next few weeks?
No.
Drop Soyuncu.
Drop Soyuncu.
Yeah.
He's
I've
been
dropped him.
poor lately, actually.
Yeah, I've dropped him. I dropped him in my wildcard week because Leicester actually aren't getting a lot of clean sheets
No,
anymore.
they've kept 1 in their last 10 games.
Yeah, it went
I
under
should
my
really
radar.
save all those killer insights for the beginning of the show.
Just in case anyone's made it this far, drop Soyuncu.
Yeah.
You need to get in Liverpool defenders. Does everyone have Liverpool defenders now?
Nah.
You don't have them, even
Nah.
though they've got 10 clean sheets. And
Oh, even on top of the league.
all right, there.
Trent and Van Dijk making up half my points every week.
No, if I could afford them, I absolutely would be all aboard.
You're all on the cheap defender route, aren't you?
Yeah.
God damn it! I just realised I can't get Salah on my team. He's too. Oh wait, 12.7 million. How much is Salah? Please don't be 12.8 million.
He's 12.7.
I can get him in just. There we go. There's my subs are done.
So you've got
Settled.
Salah and Martinelli.
Yeah, in for Vardy
That's
and
good, isn't it?
Martial.
That's some good.
I say that now, but Martinelli's probably going to do nothing. My strike force is crap though.
Martinelli could
Like
be
on
dropped,
paper.
though. How much is Martinelli?
He is 4.6, and Greenwood is 4.3. So it's safe to say
I wouldn't exactly say you've got Aguero.
Aguero is top.
Martinelli.
It's the big. He's the big
So,
fish in that little pond.
And Man City are playing West Ham.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed.
Looks like a pretty good team to me, mate.
So talk me through your team again, Miles, because I think you've just loaded it up with all the big guns.
I
there,
really
haven't you?
literally have, yeah. That's all I'm doing. So I've got Mane, De Bruyne, Salah, and Aguero, which is quite an effort considering I
Wow.
also have Van Dijk in my defence. But all my other players are absolute turds. So it's a team of two halves. I've got my big guns. When they don't turn up, what happens is I get a 30-point week because I've got no middle filter for it there. It's all or nothing. That's mad season now. It's all or nothing. And I think on that merry note, we'll call it a day there. Naz, Dave, Sam, thank you very much for joining us today. Listeners, you can get in touch by tweeting your fancy football thoughts with the hashtag UKFFS. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, or however you listen to podcasts on your favourite platform. Leave a review if you liked it, and if you didn't, what are you still doing here? Check out Goal for your daily dose of football news from the Premier League and around the world. Thanks for listening.